Hello, everybody. My name's Harry James. Usually, during football season, the last week of regular season, before conference championship weekend, that is rivalry week. That's usually what they have there. Well, sometimes it doesn't work out that way in basketball, but it sure as heck does this time. Not just one, two rivalry games coming up this week for the Sooners. One at road, one at home. The one on the road will be in Stillwater on Big Monday. The home game will be a second, basically like a second senior night for the Sooners, as they will play Texas in the Lloyd Noble Center. The midweek. This will be another midweek game. This one will be played Thursday night from the Loud Noble Center. All right, guys, we'll preview Oklahoma State, Bedlam, and the men's edition of the Red River Rivalry. Coming up next, Boomer Sooner 1982. Don't go away! Welcome back to the show, everybody. My name's Harry James, and by the way, thanks, Coach. Always good to hear from Coach Switzer during the videos. But before we jump the shark, as Coach Barry Switzer just did, let's break down the Oklahoma State game first. The Oklahoma State Cowboy team, 18-4 last season, 7-11 from Big 12 play. They beat Iowa State 72-71 in the Big 12 championship first round. Their head last season, before the whole lockdown came and no NCAA tournament. So that was the last game of at least the Big 12 tournament. The head coach of the Oklahoma State Cowboys, Mike Boynton, a 2004 grad from South Carolina, and is in his fourth season in charge of Oklahoma State. For 2021, their overall record is 16-6 in 22 games. Two players actually average about double figures. Cade Cunningham is the really the one to watch. He scores 19.8 points per ball game, does number 2, Cade Cunningham, also averaging 6.3 boards and 3.5 assists per ball game in 20 of the 22 games. They also have number 0. Their agent 0 is Avery Anderson, the third. He averages 10.2 points per ball game, 4.1 boards, and 2.2 assists per ball game in 19 games. The aforementioned Cade Cunningham just scored a Oklahoma State Bedlam record 40 points the other night. The Oklahoma record for Oklahoma's record in Bedlam, of course, 48 points, I do believe, is how many Trae Young scored in Stillwater a couple of years ago. The Sooners will then head home for a second senior night. This one will be against Texas. Horns down. Sorry, Eddie. 19-12 last year for the Longhorns. 9-9 in league play. They lost to the aforementioned They beat the aforementioned Oklahoma State Cowboys 81-59 in Austin last season for the last game of the season. Their head coach, Shaka Smart, 1999 grad from the Canyon University, and is in his 6th year in charge of Texas. Now, if you guys will remember, last time we played these guys, Oklahoma won in Austin in the Red River Rivalry Part 1. But 3 keys, or actually these next, the one previous key and 2 keys that we're about to talk about were not even present. They weren't even in the drum that night. Shaka Smart, who we just talked about, and 2 players who we're about to talk about. Number 1, Andrew Jones, and number 3, Courtney Ramsey. All were in the COVID-19 isolation mix last time these 2 teams played in Austin. Now they'll play in Norman in the 2021 home version of the Red River Rivalry. For 2021, Texas is 14-7. The leading scorers for the Longhorns, of course, we already talked about them. Number 1, Andrew Jones. Number 3, Courtney Ramsey. Andrew Jones averages 15.1 points per ball game, 5.1 boards, 2.1 assists per ball game in 20 games. Number 3, Courtney Ramsey averages 3.7 points per ball game, 2.9 boards, 4.0 assists, again, in 20 ball games. Of course, 14-7, 21 games. The one game that they missed, the OU game, that we already talked about. That win was actually in Austin for the SONNERS. Speaking of the Sooners, let's preview the Sooners next. 19-12 last season, straight up 9-9, dead even last year in Big 12 play. Their 9th win came at TCU with a 78-76 victory over the Frogs in Fort Worth. That was the final win for the Sooners last year. Their head coach, Vaughn Kruger, a 1974 grad from Kansas State, and is in his 10th year in charge of the Crimson Cream, helping Oklahoma to a 14-7 record in their own right. Number 12, Austin Reeves, and number 11, Davion Harmon. 12 Austin Reeves averages about 17.5 points per ball game, 5.6 boards, 5.1 assists per ball game, playing in 19 of the 21 games. Number 11, Davion Harmon, played in all 21 games, averaging 13.0 points per ball game, 3.3 boards, 2.1 assists per ball game for the Sooners of Oklahoma. Alright guys, that's a preview from Rivalry Week. And as we talked about in Rivalry Week, usually that's a football thing. So let's talk some football. Right here guys, the Inside OU podcast. Pretty cool stuff from my good radio buddies, Brady Trantham and Keegan Renault. Check them out. This part of it, the Inside OU podcast on the regular podcast form, is my favorite word, free, F-R-E-E, free. This one, the Patreon version, either $4 or $5. $4 if you want just the post-game podcast and a couple of interviews that they do for that. Also, for $5, you could see them do kind of like a video. If they get to do the FaceTime part of it, you get to see the video part of the interview. And plus, Keegan Renault will do a coaches view, the all 22 coaches view of each game. And now during the off season, he will do the opposing team. Like, for example, he will go and watch Tulane video, and he will show us what Tulane likes to do offensively and defensively. Proof to the pudding of the point. He's already done that for Steve Sarkisian in Texas. Showed us what Alabama's offense looks like from the All-22 set. And because Steve Sarkisian was at Alabama and now is at Texas. Alright guys, thanks for watching. My name's Harry James. Catch this and all my other videos on the YouTube, Bumper Sooner 1982. Also, Facebook, Harry James Taylor, and on the Twitter, @ItmanHarry. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Brady Trantham and Company on their podcast or their $4 to $5 on the Patreon podcast. Don't forget that either. All right, guys, thanks for watching the Bowler Center, everybody. I'm out of here. Peace.